Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Something really interesting today. You may have seen the embargoes now lifted on the Gordon Murray T.50S Niki Lauda, essentially the track/racing version of the T50 fan car. Now, I got the amazing opportunity to sit and have a Zoom call with Gordon Murray about this new car. So here's about half an hour of us chatting about the T50S, Le Mans, taking this car racing, and of course a bit also about the Ford Mondeo ST200. So sit back, get something to eat, and enjoy the show.
My target was 1,000. I had three targets. I had 890 kilos. I had 1,000 kilos of downforce, which I thought it's got to be enough to be serious. You know, it doesn't want to be 3 tons, so you have to be a Le Mans driver to cope with it, sort of thing. It has to be a very accessible track car. So I thought 1,000 kilos at top speed was about right. And I asked Cosworth for 700 horsepower, so we had a good differentiator against a road car. And it's one of those fantasy stories where we just beat all the targets, you know. I sat with Frank Coppock, our technical director, and both of us had done aerodynamics for decades, you know, and we thought, right, we need about this size of rear wing, so we designed a rear wing chord profile. It's got a slotted trailing flap. And I reckon to balance that, we're going to have a splitter out the front that's about this depth. And we did an airfoil section in the middle of that too, so it's a little front wing to balance it, to get the center of pressure in the right place. And we stuck it in the CFD tunnel, and before very long, we had 1.4 tons. So more than the target already. And then we kept working on it, and we got up to 1.9 tons. And I said, well, hold on a minute. Apart from the fact we won't get tyres big enough to carry that load, that's not going to be something a good amateur driver can handle very well. So we backed it back down again to 1,500 at top speed, which means that, can you still hear me, Mike? Because you've frozen.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I can still hear you. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah, I just thought you were keeping very still. So we backed it off down to about 1,500 kilos at max, so Vmax, which means, you know, you're going to have around, on a fast corner on the track, you're going to have around 700 kilos. So we got 1,500 kilos, and Cosworth came back and said, we've got 710 horsepower, is that okay? And then on top of that, I was writing the press release, and I said to my lead engineer, Ed Brightman, on this, I said, I'm going to have to put my head on the block here and the press release for the weight. You know, I don't want to put 890 if we're not going to make 890. And I said to him, what's the current mass track running at? Because we do a mass track every week. And he said, 852. I went, pardon? You know. So I said, now, are you willing to swear by that? And he said, actually, I think we could get down to 840.
Wow.
So I played safe and I put 852 in. But I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, that's a better power to weight ratio than an LMP1 car. In fact, it's the same power to weight ratio as the car that came second, the Rebellion car that came second at Le Mans last year.
Wow.
So it's going to be entertaining, let's put it that way.
Okay, so what does the 1,900 kilo car look like compared to the 1,500 kilo downforce car? What's the difference?
That had more aggressive front aero, bigger diffusers, because we've got diffusers on the front as well behind the front wheels. And it had, it ran a steeper camber rear wing, same size rear wing, steeper camber rear wing. So we could easily, I mean, if we wanted to go and try and beat lap times, we could probably get it up to over 2 tons. And at that weight, it's going to smash a few records. But I'm really, once again, crack record stuff, not interested in breaking lap time records because, you know, this is all about the ultimate track car experience. And it has to be accessible. It has to be easy to run, you know, without needing special engineers and all that stuff. And it has to be comfortable and quick and enjoyable for people to actually want to go out and use it. So that's why we backed it off.
Yeah, I think that's definitely my title. Gordon Murray supercar creates too much downforce.
Yes. Yeah. It was amazing, actually. I mean, we could have kept going. we had different dive planes on the front. We could have kept going, but we thought, that's just steady on, that's just for fun. That's not going to be fun for a good amateur driver. Because racing car guys, they put up with a lot in cars. They're sitting with their feet up in the air. It's very claustrophobic. In an LMP car, you've only got forward vision. You don't have any peripheral vision at all. And it's very, very tight. Whereas this is completely different. This is the same cabin volume as an F1. You've got one passenger this time on the left-hand side. And you've got really good vision everywhere, sitting in the middle. And you've got an NA engine. So it should be a very accessible motor car for most people.
But when I saw that power figure, that downforce figure, and you paired it back, I did a bit of research and I came across the phenomenon of porpoising in racing cars. What in modern cars with downforce stops that phenomenon from happening?
Oh, that's quite easy because the porpoising was from when we had wing cars with sliding skirts. So if you imagine, you slice through the side pod of the car, the whole pod was an inverted airfoil, was an airfoil section. So you had a ground effect car has three sort of phases of the underbody. You have the air entry where you encourage a bit of air to go under, so that sweeps up a bit towards the front. Then you have the venturi, the throat, and that's the lowest part of the wing, and that's where the air is going fastest, and that interacts with the ground to give you downforce and suck on the underside of the car. And then it expands again back to the base suction at the back of the car, and that's the diffuser. So those are your three areas. On wing cars, that venturi was only probably with the car loaded up 30, 40 millimeters off the ground. And as you went faster and faster down the straight, your downforce builds up with the square of the speed. And you get to a point where that venturi gets so close to the ground, it chokes the air. So it won't let the air through anymore. And then it suddenly stalls. And of course, you've got four springs on the car, and they've stored up all the energy from that downforce, compressing them. You suddenly lose the downforce, and all that energy in all four springs is released, so the car would leap vertically. Like a cat on a hot tin roof. As soon as it leapt up, it got the downforce and let the air through. It got the downforce back, so we go down again, and that was porpoising. But that was when we had a pure wing profile and we had skirts. So we were producing. A Brabham 49D produced 2.5 tons of downforce. So it was pretty serious stuff. With road cars, you have no skirts for a start, so the air can spit out the sides or come in the sides. So you're not trapping the air through the venturi part of the car. And you have essentially what is a flat floor. And you run the car, and this is the same for Grand Prix cars at the moment, actually, and LMP cars. They've all got flat floors. So you run the car at chassis impedance, you run it at a rake angle. And the rake angle does two things. It clears the boundary layer, so it stops the boundary layer building up and choking the underside. But we add to that with the fan. We remove all that boundary layer to make that more efficient. But on a flat bottom car, normally the boundary layer builds up. So you have to run rake to get rid of that boundary layer build up. Otherwise you get a wedge the wrong way facing the airstream. And the other thing is the rake it creates a venturi because the lowest part of that flat bottom is where the air is fastest. So you create downforce up nearer the front of the car with that bit, and then you create more downforce by speeding the air up again into the diffuser at the back of the car. And sorry, long answer, but that was porpoising.
Okay, cool. Another thing, looking at the press release, one of the main changes is to paddle shift. Obviously, that will make the car much more drivable and quicker on track versus a manual gearbox. But is that also to do with the power increase? Could the manual deal with that new power?
Not at all. All to do with drivability again. Everything, I can't stress enough, as with 50, everything on 50 is aimed at giving the best road driving experience in a supercar. And this is the same thing on track. And honestly, when you're generating that much acceleration and deceleration and lateral force, trying to change gear with one hand off the steering wheel and an 8-pattern gearbox wouldn't be fun. So it's very different from a road car, the track experience, So we thought we would have to go to a paddle shift. So we designed a completely new gearbox with X-Track.
Okay, so could someone ask for a T50S with a manual if they so wanted?
No, because the electronic architecture is completely different on the car. It's new. The electronic architecture on the car is new.
Okay. And last time we chatted about the car entering, the T50 possibly entering racing, and you sort of harked back to the BPR championship in the 90s, that sort of thing. And in the press release, you said that you're going to take this car to track days that are connected with the GT World Challenge. What would you see that potential race series looking like? Would it need to be completely open, or do you think there'd be regs with regards to it?
There would be some regs, but we're doing it through Stefan Rattel. We're not doing it ourselves. We will be organising track events for our owners, of course. But on top of that, we're working with Stefan Rattel, and he's got this brilliant idea called the GT1 Sports Club. And his idea is, because he runs 90% of the world's GT championships, and he's got a big one in Europe, big championship in Europe. His idea is to select a few prestigious circuits, good circuits to run cars on. And initially, he's doing it in stages, which is really clever, because so many people promise a race series, and they never come to anything. Well, like the ACO and the FIA, for example, saying we were going to go back to Le Mans with these cars, and then died with it. So what his plan is, you join the club. You join the club through the manufacturer. So in this case, it would be us. And then you get a ticket to come along and watch the GT racing on the Sunday. And obviously, there'll be a special spot to park the cars and probably a couple of demo laps or something. But then he keeps the circuit open for the Monday, maybe even the Tuesday. And initially, the first stage would be you get to run the cars on all these lovely circuits around Europe and other parts of the world that he does it with other championships. And then if enough people are interested, and this is the clever bit, when he sees how that works and enough people are interested, he's looking at starting a Pro-Am GT series like the BPR again, where that would be integrated into the race weekends during the weekend. And I think it's a brilliant idea. I really do.
Okay, so I guess the hypercar regs they're too heavy, aren't they, for the T50?
Oh yeah, and also they're a silhouette formula. It's based on, I think, an LMP2 chassis or something, and you put a body on that that's like your brand. I mean, that honestly, that doesn't interest me in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
I've never liked silhouette formulas.
Okay. And again, last time we chatted, the progress report was that in September or October time, the T50 prototypes would be being built. Have you kept on timescale there, or have there been any delays?
We've had delays, definitely. Yeah, we were going to start building them. End of September, October, and we did. XP1 and XP2, very close together, within a couple of weeks of one another. But we had supply problems from the COVID situation, so we had the cars sitting there, sort of 2/3 built, but with a few bits missing. That stopped us going any further. So the poor guys, the engines were in and out, the transmission was on and off. Plus the fact we were getting feedback because George Mule Car's been running since October, and we've been getting feedback on electronics, engine mapping, clutch, stuff like that, and we've been updating parts to put into the car. So we probably lost, I reckon, good 6 weeks on the build of those cars. We've now got all the parts, and XP2 is now ahead of XP1, but they're both very, very similar. And that should fire up tomorrow and should be running, I think, around about the end of the week, or if not Monday. Okay. So we've lost about 6 weeks, but what we've had to do to catch up so we don't move production is we've rejigged the whole vehicle development program. We're building an extra prototype Cosworth so they can run 2 tests in parallel. And we're building 11 prototypes now. So we've rewritten the vehicle development program so we can get back on track, basically.
Okay, so is there a transition point where you move from George to XP1 and XP2, or is he kept going throughout the whole process?
Oh no, he just keeps going. The transition where he's joined by his family, if you like, is next week.
Okay.
When XP2 runs. But no, George is invaluable. His basic job is getting the engine mapping and emissions to up to spec, and he just keeps running all year alongside. So he's like a 12th prototype, really.
And he is an Ultima, and I know Ultima chassis were used for the F1 as well. What is it about Ultima that makes it such a good mule car?
They are so heavy and so butch that they're so over-designed, there's a crude space rate, and you can hack them about. You can chop tubes out and weld tubes in, gussets to fit any engine and gearbox combination, and they're still so heavy and over-designed. It's fine. And it's easy to access because the body comes off in big clams. So building them and working on them is dead easy. So I think if we did another car, we'd probably use another Ultima because it's just such an easy car to hack about.
And how is the engine development coming? Is it properly sorted now? Is all the timing and everything all bang on?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, we lost Cosworth for time by not having the prototype ready, obviously. But George has helped enormously. The engine's already hit 12,100 on the dyno. That's finished. They're limiting us to, I think it's about 6,000 revs in George because we're just doing engine drivability and emissions, as I say, and engine management. And most of the engine management issues are the low-speed handling of the engine. And they're limiting that because the ISG, we're going through phases of development on the ISG, and we don't want to blow that up in the car. And so they're limiting us to 6,000 revs, but we have a plan where in George and, of course, the prototypes, we just slowly increase the revs as we catch up to the dyno work.
Okay. And what happens to the likes of George once this is all wrapped up? Does he get destroyed?
We crushed them.
Oh, that's such a shame.
Yes, take the engine out first, of course. But we normally crush them because they're not, they're not a great advert for the company, to be honest. And they're very crude devices. They're fantastic at that job, and you don't really want that to get into somebody else's hands.
So Max, Otto, and Rudolph are no longer with us then?
No, they all got crushed. Albert and Edward got crushed.
Oh, okay. So when will we see a running T.50S? Well, what's the timeline on a car being finished?
Well, the engine program and the transmission program are exactly a year. So what we're doing is we're launching the car this month, and then we've got all the design to do. It's quite a small team. It's been a parallel design. We started it in summer 2019. It's such a different motor car from 50. It's obviously based on 50, but every panel's different, the monocoque's different, gearbox is different, engine's very different. So X-Track and Cosworth have both kicked off their programs at the end of last year, and they both need about a year before they've probably got a running transmission and a running 50S motor. So we'll just slowly during this year do all the detailed design and produce all the tooling to build the cars. And we probably, I think from memory, we have a mule running towards the end of this year. And then we do all the full-blooded testing on racetracks next summer.
Okay. And I know that Dario Franchitti has been heavily involved in the development. What has his feedback been so far, having driven the likes of George?
Well, we've got 3 test drivers. Actually, Dario's one of them, and all three of them, even at 5,000-6,000 revs, they all, after they got out of the car, they all said they had never, and this was independently, which is quite fun, they have never driven a car, an engine, with that response before. Just never. It's another planet, they all say. So I still have, I mean, traditionally, I'm the first to drive the Mule, and I'm the first to drive the XP car. I always have been. And of course, with the F1, I did a lot of the development, testing myself. But this time I missed out on the Mule because it went straight, we had COVID wrecked, and it went straight up to Millville, where we have a permanent garage up there and a permanent team. And so I missed out on it. So I'm determined next week to jump into 50 and run an XP2.
Wow, that would be so cool to hear your feedback on that one.
Yes.
So I was really interested to see the CFD model for the T50 road car. I cannot imagine what the CFD now looks like on T50S. It must, with that fan going full tilt, it must look insane.
I'm going to make a note. Thank you for that. I'm going to make a note because I'd like to get some images. Maybe we could put it in the press release.
Oh yeah, that'd be amazing.
Then you make a note. That's a good one.
Yeah, because I with the fan obviously alternating speed in the road car, you know, I imagine that looks pretty severe, but then to have it just high downforce mode the entire time in the race car must look amazing.
Yes. Yeah. That's thanks for that, Mike. That's a really good idea. I'll get on to the guys today and have a look. I mean, it's going to be the really satisfying thing. There's two satisfying things for me when I first saw the car. Firstly, I mean, as I say, it's pretty stunning. I hope you like it. You see it soon. It's really sort of dramatic, you know, with all the aero on it. But it hasn't lost the fundamental T50 pretty shape, if you like. So a lot of track cars, they completely destroy the shape with the aero all over them, you know, including Formula 1 cars, actually. But this time we've managed to not on purpose, just come out that way. We've retained the T50 shape. Or maybe it's because the T50 shape is so pure, it still shines through a little bit. I don't know. It wasn't intentional. So it still looks like a pretty car, but it is dramatic. That was the first thing I'm pleased about. And the second thing is I can put my hand on my heart and say I don't think anybody will ever get close to this as a track experience, because unless you're sitting in the middle for a start, I mean, that is just so cool on the track. I remember driving the F1. I drove XP1 around Silverstone for the first time when we finished the XP1. Sitting in the middle, unless you're sitting in the middle, unless the car weighs 850 kilos, which nobody else is going to get close to, and you've got an NA 12,000 rev, V12 in the back, 700 horsepower, V12, this is surely going to remain the best track stroke race experience you're ever going to have, you know. And that's quite satisfying, really, because we didn't set out to break lap times. We just set out to give people the absolute ultimate driving experience.
God, that sounds absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to see the pictures of this thing.
It's going to sound good too, because we've got, instead of the big old silencer behind the gearbox on T50, we've done inline silencers, you know, like straight through bike silencers.
Yes.
Cylindrical ones. And the reason why we've done that is because, of course, everybody has a different circuit, their local circuit or circuits that they run on. And depending on where you are, people have got different allowable sound levels. For example, Goodwood's 103 decibels. So what we can do is we can tune the exhaust with the silencers to suit somebody's local needs, if you like. And but what I've done this time, I've put the pipes right close together, because on a road car, when you've got a catalytic converter, the pulse coming down the primaries and through the collector box into the tailpipe hits the catalytic converter, and it gets dampened quite badly by the cap. It's like a big filter, if you like. But when you go straight through, the pulses stay really strong all the way to the end. And then if you put the pipes close together, as the gas comes out of the end of the pipe, it shoots out at an angle in a cone, if you like, and the pulses mix. And it usually sounds like double the revs when the car goes past. So, the first time this comes past the pits, it's going to sound like 24,000 revs.
Wow.
I can remember being at Le Mans in 72, first time I went to Le Mans when I designed that 3-litre prototype for Alan Academy.
Yeah.
And I wandered out onto Mulsanne. And in those days, it was pre-chicane, so it was 3.4 miles, whatever it was, straight. And the cars that won, the cars actually level 1, 2, 3, were the Mazda prototypes with a 3-litre V12. And they revved to 12,000 in those days. And I'll never forget, as long as I live, standing there and hearing this thing come past. And it was just the most gorgeous sound. So I just can't wait to get on the circuit and hear this thing.
Well, I was thinking as a launch, you should bring it home and bring it up to Scotland to Knockhill, but then I thought it will absolutely demolish Knockhill as a circuit.
Yes. It's going to be, even starting the thing up in the pits is going to be fun,
Yeah.
It's very accessible. Once again, we've moved heaven and earth to make sure it's an easy car to use and drive. Unlike some of these hypercars where with the track, you're not even allowed to keep the car yourself. They take it away every time and you need technicians to start it. And this thing is literally turn up at the circuit, check the tire pressures, start the engine up until the oil's warm, and off you go.
I'd love to be there for the training. I saw in the press release that you can bring a mechanic along and have a training day with it. I'd love to record that and see what is said between the engineers.
Well, I think we'll have some owners. We know the sort of people that bought 50, and we've already sold about 2/3 of these have been pre-sold, just through. Well, a few early people said, I'd like both. When we said we're going to make a track car, they just bought both. But we've been doing Zoom sessions since mid-December, I think. And so we sold another bunch after Zoom sessions. But I think you'll find the type of people that are buying this wouldn't mind doing something like that, which would be fun. Yeah.
Cool. Have you had a chance to get up to Shield Lake at any point this year? Or have you been...
No. We between lockdowns, and literally between lockdowns, we had 2 weeks up there last year in September, and they locked down the day after we left the game. Oh. So we just snuck it in, but I really can't wait. I was just talking to my wife last night, actually, at dinner, and I was just saying, I really miss the sea, and I miss Scotland, I miss the place dreadfully.
Mm.
I'm stuck in the same, I've got a nice little study here, but I'm stuck in the same room every day. It's getting me down a bit, I'm sure it is, everybody. But I'm really hoping we can get up there. We booked a trip. We were going to go for just a few days in Easter. I don't know whether that's going to happen. But we booked a big trip in end of May, June.
Okay, that's nice.
Which is my favourite time of year to get out on the boat up there.
Yeah, okay. And then a bit of a random one. At Drive Tribe on our YouTube channel, we are currently restoring a 2000 Ford Mondeo ST200, the V6 one. What are your thoughts on the Ford Mondeo as a car? Do you have any feelings towards it?
I honestly don't know much about it. I don't think I've even got close to one. Not on purpose. I don't know it as a motor car. What year was that?
2000. So that was when they won the British Touring Car Championship with Alain Menu and that type of thing. Super touring.
Can't be a bad car, but that's a very heavily contested championship, isn't it? I just don't know enough about it, really.
It's okay. I wouldn't expect you to be fair. Okay, Gordon. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, Mike.
Yeah,
really cool.
I look forward to doing something with you when we've got running cars, because that's the sort of stuff that I'm sure your viewers really get into.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if we could have both road car and track car. That would be absolutely insane.
Yes. You didn't think, when we launched T50, you thought, well, you're not going to see anything wilder than this, but here it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I cannot wait for the car to be launched. And yeah, that CFD image, please make that happen.
Yeah, I'm on it this afternoon, so thanks for that.
Okay, perfect. Well, yeah, thanks for the chat and good luck.
Cheers. Take care, Mike.
Okay,
Cheers.
bye.
I hope you guys enjoyed that. I will always take an opportunity to chat to Gordon. He's just a fascinating guy awaiting that knighthood. Come on, Sir Gordon Murray. So thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for the Drive Tribe video, the proper full video with animations and a lot more information about the car. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.